The next one says, what a blissful world we would live in if all men accepted and practiced the truth that the best Christians and the best Jews have in common. The next one says, neither in our religion nor in our ceremony laws is there any hindrance to fulfilling a duty, be it ever so arduous, demanded by the fatherland or state laws. The fourth one says, man emancipates himself politically from religion by banishing it from the sphere of public law to that of private law. And we are not immigrants. We are native born, and since that is the case, we have no claim to a home anywhere else. We are either German or we are homeless. So earlier I read you the 5 Declaration of the Rights as Man as Citizens, and when you go past them and turn around, on the back there are statements which take the rights of a human away from the Jews. And the first one, we must refuse everything to the Jews as a nation and accord everything to Jews as individuals. That was by Comte de Clermont-Tonnerre in 1789. In 1781, Christian Wilhelm Dahm wrote the following. History has demonstrated that Jews were only corrupt as humans and citizens because they were denied the rights of both. Ernest Moritz Arndt in 1814, Jews as Jews do not fit into this world and into these states, and for that reason I do not want them to multiply unduly in Germany. Preußisches Finanzministerium, the Prussian Ministry of Finance. Wish I would have gone with that first. In 1816 stated, but as long as a Jew remains a Jew, he cannot assume any position in the state in which as a government representative he would have authority over Christian citizens. And then finally the last one, which is Heinrich Heine in 1830, says, but what is the great task of our time? It is emancipation, not just of the Irish, Greek, Frankfurt Jews, West Indian blacks. It is rather the emancipation of the whole world. This is a model of the outside of the Munich synagogue in 1826. And then we turn it around and we see the interior of the synagogue. At this point in time, all Jews were Orthodox, and so the men would sit on the bottom, and this over here is the bima, and the women would sit in the gallery because men and women, according to tradition, are supposed to be separated. The next synagogue that we're going to take a look at is from the Cologne synagogue, and this was completed in 1861. Here again we see the interior with the seating for the men, the bima, and then seating for women. Probably there was seating for women in these areas as well. And then here is the front. And you might be saying, boy, that looks like a lot of the churches that we've seen. And that's because many of the synagogues were modeled after the types of architecture that was going on for that day, which included churches. Next synagogue that we're going to take a look at is the Hanover Synagogue, and this was designed during the Renaissance Revival, German style. It was created in 1870, and if we turn it around, I guess we will see again that this main area is where the men would be. This is the bima. And here up in the balconies is where the women would be. Finally, last type of synagogue shown here is a Plauen synagogue. And this was a modern liberal synagogue in 1930. And you'll notice that this is the first time you'll see it, we see these 4 synagogues that there's a Star of David on it. But my guess is, yep, still the same. Men on the bottom, Bima over here, and women up in the upper areas. So I've come across a information area about the first female rabbis that I thought would be interesting for you guys to know. The first female rabbis, it took a long time for women to acquire the right to become rabbis. Remember, they were separated in the synagogue from the men. The men got to be on the first floor and the women had to be upstairs or in the interior parts of the synagogue. The foundation was laid by the Reform movement, which is what I practice. I grew up conservative, which is between Orthodox and Reform, and now I am Reform. The first female rabbi in the world was Regina Jonas. She was ordained in Germany in 1935. And each of these photographs show the first female rabbi in a given country. They were either the first to be ordained there or the first to be appointed by a local community. And this is from 1936 to the present. This is Regina Jonas. And you might remember seeing a picture of her when I went on the Jewish History Walk in Berlin a few days ago. This is Sally Priesand. She was the first woman to be ordained as a rabbi in the United States. This is Jackie Tabik. She was the first woman to officiate as a rabbi in Britain. Next, we have Joan Friedman, first woman to officiate as a rabbi in Canada. We have Nama Kalman. She was the first woman ordained as a rabbi in Israel. Below, we have Alina Traeger. She was the first woman to be ordained as a rabbi in Germany after the Holocaust. This was 2010. So the first woman rabbi in Germany was Regina Jonas in 1935. After the Holocaust, there were no female rabbis until 2010. Tanya Siegel was the first rabbi in the Czech Republic. Alicia Klapchek, sorry if I'm butchering names. She was the first rabbi in the Netherlands. Barbara Aiello was the first rabbi to be ordained in Italy. And this is Bea Weiler, and she was the first woman to officiate as a rabbi in Germany. And that was 1995, so I probably should have been more clear. So I guess we had someone in 1995, and then we had somebody in 2010. So I find it so interesting that of all the shapes that they could have made these windows, they chose to do like a cross. It's not necessarily like a religious cross, it's more like the Red Cross. But I'm going to have to ask downstairs at the information desk why these like Red Cross crosses were chosen for a Jewish museum.